So you started off this unit by writing a prompt that the students were going to be able to answer. The prompt says, how does point of view of Grendel differ from the point of view of Beowulf? And how does this difference affect the reader's perception of Grendel in each text? So as you created that prompt, what were your primary learning goals that you wanted to assess with that prompt?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, this unit was kind of inspired by Reading Literature Standard 7, which says students should analyze multiple interpretations of the same text. So I wanted the prompt to focus on that. But when you ask students to analyze multiple interpretations, you get plot summaries sometimes. They want to tell you, this happened in Beowulf, this happened in Grendel.
Right.
And that's okay, but I wanted to add another layer to it. So that's why I asked them to focus on the point of view and how it affected the reader's perception. Because that also hits on Standard 6, which is asking you how the author's choices affect a text. So instead of saying, this happens in Grendel, this happens in Beowulf, they can say, when the narrator in Beowulf states, the reader realizes this. However, in Grendel, when he explains, the reader understands, so that there's another layer to their analysis.
And that's really important because if you've been following the PARC, which is the Future Georgia Statewide Assessment, the released items they have actually have that exact type of question, where you look at a Roman poet, and then you look at a contemporary poet who wrote something based on that, but in a different way. So by creating this type of assessment, you're preparing the students for their future type of work, but as well as yourself for the type of assessment you're going to want to give. What were some of your primary goals when you were thinking about having the students write?
Well, a big shift with Common Core is really the emphasis on what is your evidence. You can make a claim about a text, but where exactly in the text do you see that? And if you've looked at the PARC assessments, you see they'll ask students a question, like what is the theme of this, but then the next question will be, okay, well, what's your evidence? What's your support? So I really wanted to focus on that. So for this essay, I actually required students to have 10 quotes from either text that supported what they were saying. So you can say the narration in Beowulf does this, but show me exactly where. So they had to have 10 quotes. So that really tied into the idea of citing evidence.
When did you give this prompt?
I assigned this prompt when they were about 3/4 of the way through with the novel, because at that point when they saw the prompt they would immediately kind of have an answer in mind. I wanted them to see the prompt and be like, okay, I know how to answer this, I can say. You know, they would be formulating their opinions.
And they're collecting evidence
Yeah.
as they read.
But they weren't done reading, so yes, as we finished the novel they would say, oh, okay, great, this supports the point that I already have in my mind.
So that sort of encourages the reading-writing connection. So they're reading in order to be able to write, and they're sort of writing as they're reading. And it probably helps you stop plagiarism because you can see them plotting their essay as they're reading the text.
Exactly, because as a teacher, one of the big things that causes plagiarism is procrastination.
Yeah.
If you assign a prompt too early and you wait to the end, you're like, okay, here's that essay, students are going to freak out. But by actively reading and talking about the prompt as we were reading, I could say, oh, and if you're thinking about making this point in your essay, that's some great evidence, and I would see them start scribbling
down. You
down.
see them you're teaching them also note-taking.
Yes.
So in our next clip, we're going to look at some student work and see where the students meet the standards and what Tricia did in order to help them get there.